Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to be talking about the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway self-guided tour. This tour is in Dorchester County, Maryland. If you travel there to visit on vacation, or if you're going there with the set idea to run the loop, basically the Tubman loop, this is where you can do that. So we're going to go over a few, I have some printouts here just to go over some things, show you guys some things. There is a website that you can go to and download a free app that will also be in the description of this video, and that is www.harriettubmanbyway.org. You'll go to that website, you'll download the app, and that app will pop up on your iPad or your phone, and it will look like this, a huge long list. There are a ton, pages and pages of stops, but this is the main list of different places you can stop on your loop. So when you first get to Dorchester County, you can go to the Dorchester County Visiting Center. We skipped that just because we knew basically we had planned ahead through TripAdvisor and just doing our own research. Different places that we knew we wanted to hit, different places that are open to the public to either stand on the grounds, to read plaques, to go into different buildings. So we just did the self-guided loop. My husband drove and I read stuff off the iPad, and our son was with us, so it was just a nice like family like driving loop that we did. This could take an hour, this could take several hours. It's all up to you. You get to choose what places along the route you want to stop. Some of the stops will take you from the center of town out to very rural areas. The whole time we did have cell phone reception because we were able to use the iPad and the LTE on the iPad to navigate this loop that we were on. So you're never going to be without cell phone service, even though you're going out into like the countryside a little bit. Not too far out, but definitely farther out. So reading down through some of this list of just different places you guys could stop along your way, you have the Visiting Center in Dorchester, the Tubman Memorial Gardens, the Tubman Museum, which is a definite stop. Let's see, you have the Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge, which is a great stop because that stop is not too far from her home where she grew up. That is the area where she was trapping the muskrats. So it's really, really interesting. So one of the first stops that we made, we drove past the Harriet Tubman Museum and Visitor Center. That is a national park, historical site. That is an absolute must stop. I truly think it was free to go inside, and there are things in there that you won't see anywhere else that are Harriet Tubman related. There are different types of bronze like statues and figures and whole scenes being played out that are encased in bronze. Like some of the most elaborate depictions of what it was like on the run are there. There are different things that you can see Harriet, like the list of documented names that she brought to freedom. All different types of things. There's a gift shop there. You can stamp your passport book there, which I did. But yeah, it's a great place. That visitor center you could probably be in for about an hour and a half walking around. If you truly wanted to stand and like read everything and take in a display and then move on to the next, read everything, take in a display and move on, probably about an hour and a half. Gift shop there with some of the coolest unique items that are Harriet Tubman related that we've seen bouncing around from different museums or different historical spots. Definitely some of the neatest like Underground Railroad items in general, not just Harriet Tubman related, but these are like constellations and just different people like running through the forest. Like they're all different types of really, really neat things made by local artists that you can find there. And there are a lot of items with her murals on them because one of her, I'm trying to think, it would have been a nephew great nephew, or however that breaks down, who actually does all of the murals in Dorchester County. He's incredibly talented. We featured his artwork on Mintysmilitia on Facebook before. That is the mural that is at the top of our Facebook page. He created that mural. But there were multiple murals throughout Dorchester County that he has created. So it's just really neat. Now this loop does take you through the whole Dorchester County area. So here are just a handful of the top places. And you can find this all on that website. Okay, so when you go to harriettubmanbyway.org, that's where you'll download the free touring app. That's where you'll get all different types of visitor information on the whole area, because it's a very historical area in general. So you'll go through the Dorchester County history. That's one whole part. And then the whole Harriet Tubman loop is a different part. Now, when you open up the app, you get to highlight different things that you want to stop, and then it recalculates like through your GPS, and it will take you different places. You can read the information, or you can have it read to you by like your iPad or your cell phone. So if you're traveling alone, or if you're a family who listens to like audiobooks or whatever, and you like to have it through your speakers in your car, you can do that. I just preferred to read it for all of us. But so the Dorchester County Visitor Center, that is open until 5 p.m. And then obviously with like COVID restrictions, you're gonna want to like just do your own research and figuring everything out, and if masks are required or if they're not required, because we're still in the realm of COVID. So you just want to make sure, and this is one cool thing too, like this self-guided tour, same as Gettysburg, you pull up the information, or you buy the DVD or the CD or whatever, that's like the Audible loop, and you just drive around to different locations. So it's nice and safe for you if you have younger kids or whatever. Pack a lunch, if you're in that area or passing through that area or whatever. Keep your snacks in your car. Like each location you can get out and there's nobody around. It's not a huge tourist attraction to do this. But if you love history, it's awesome. It's awesome to run this loop and to see all these different things. So we saw the courthouse in town. We did not stop or take pictures of it. It's just, there's several things that like are on the loop that you'll drive by, look at, acknowledge. You're like, oh, okay, and then you just keep going. But like the Long Wharf, the Harriet Tubman Museum and Educational Center, like we said, there are dozens and dozens of things in there that you will never see anywhere else. You can go into different museums and they'll have, a Harriet Tubman area or an Underground Railroad area, and they won't have anything specific related to different things that are there. So I won't spoil any of them, but there are definitely things there that you will not see anywhere else. And we have traveled the whole Underground Railroad loop from Maryland, from Dorchester, Maryland, all the way up through the falls, all the way into Auburn, New York, where if you watched a previous video, we talked about our trip to Auburn and the final resting place of Harriet Tubman. So you can do the whole loop if you want, depending on, what you're committed to, whatever you want to do. But anyways, so like the Stanley Institution is there. You can drive around, you can see the home. So like on the route, you pass the visitor center, you keep going. One of the first stops you'll see is the field, which had the original Brodus plantation on. The original house is gone, but in the middle of this huge field, there are like 5 or 6 trees that have grown up around what looks like a shack in the middle of the woods, and that is where the original structure once stood. It's not the original house, it's private owned. It's, you can go there, there's a pull off. This whole the whole self-guided tour, there are pull-offs everywhere. So you're not just pulling off the side of the road or side of a highway. There are designated areas at each stop where you can pull over. There's plenty of parking, so you can get out. Each stop has a plaque with different information. This is a very family-friendly like self-guided tour. There's nothing inappropriate along the way. There's nothing in what the stops that we did that we read on the plaques that, you know, had anything that was too much, you know, age-wise and content-wise. But so very friendly, family friendly. But yeah, you can go there and you can literally look out in a field that is still being used by a local farmer today. When we were there, they were growing corn in it. You cannot go out into the field, obviously, because it's privately owned, and at that time, we went in the summer, there was corn growing, you know, so you wouldn't want to damage anybody's property or anything like that. So you cannot go up to the house, but you can see the house, and you're free to take photos of anything and everything that you want. So that's what we did. We took pictures by the sign, pictures of the house, pictures of the whole like property that we could see. And that's really nice to be able to do that. So from there you can keep traveling, and it's not even like 2 or 3 miles down the road. You come across the general store, which is tiny. It's about the size of a small shed that Harriet walked into. And that is the part of her story where she blocked the door. She stood in front of an overseer's way. She blocked his path as another man who was enslaved ran out of the store away from the overseer. So she stepped in between them to protect this man, to stop the overseer, to slow him down, basically. And he struck her with the 2-pound weight, which caused, you know, the sleeping spells and the narcolepsy for the rest of her life. So you can actually go into the store. The store is open on specific days. You have to check that schedule because it was not open when we were there. But prior to going, we knew what the inside of the store looked like from YouTube, different YouTube videos and things like that. So you can talk to the local owners. Everything is privately owned. So it's almost like a huge reenactment loop. If like certain things are open, the owners will dress up, or they'll have people come in and they'll let you touch things or hold things and explain the whole thing as to what this is, why it was significant in Harriet's story, and why they maintain and they keep, you know, sharing the story and sharing the history related to whichever specific place it is. So yeah, that's pretty neat to be able to go inside. That's one thing I wish I could have done, but we were not able to because they were closed. So always make sure you're checking the times and the dates and things like that. But regardless if you can go in or not, you can still take photos of it. So it's a pale yellow shed-like structure, basically. It's a very small building that you can go in, and when the owners have it open, they'll show you like what 2-pound weights were, and you get to hold 2-pound weights, and you know, and just imagine, like, can you imagine being struck in the head with this? You know, they go over the whole that whole story with you in vivid detail. So it's really neat. If you ever go through and just Google and search on YouTube the store in Dorchester County where Harriet was struck, it's really interesting. But from there, you can just continue on. There are different houses. There are different byways. You can see the different routes that she took when she was running cargo. You can see the different pathways and byways that she took when she was trapping muskrats, when she was, you know, being hired out from the Brodus plantation over to other people. So you can see different houses, you can see different types of buildings and structures and things like that. Self-guided tour. So again, you take as little or as much time as you possibly want. All different types of things going along the byway. That whole area is beautiful. So you'll find yourself just pulling off on the side of the road and just soaking it all in, because it's some of the most beautiful land that we've ever seen. But it's just really cool. If you go in the summertime, you know, put your windows down and just take your time and just travel from each stop to each stop. And that's the one thing I really liked with the self-guided tour, was that there were different stops along Harriet's, you know, like upbringing, or, you know, while she was working as a conductor, or different things like that, that are all significant parts of her story, but they're not like the key things, you know, where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, she did these things, she did that thing, you know, like she stopped here, she went there. They all, you know, are pieces to the puzzle, but the big chunks, the big pieces are the ones that you really want to see first. And because of the time, when we were passing through, I think we only had like 7 or 8 hours blocked out for this. It was like we were leaving DC, we were going into Baltimore, or Baltimore, yeah. So it was like in between. The town is really, really cute. The town has its own Harriet Tubman small local museum. It's separate from the tour, but they do promote the tour. It's a volunteer organized group. They all volunteer. They're all mostly everybody that we met was retired. So they're just there working and educating small groups, or just people, you know, coming through to do the self-guided tour, and they just see that and they happen to stop there. There are some really interesting pieces of artwork in there. But honestly, just sitting and talking and having conversations with the staff there are really incredible. They're so enlightening, and they're so open to discussing different things and asking questions. And, you know, there was one gentleman there that had, you know, a whole like family history going back all the way into slavery, and he was explaining like to me how significant, you know, every generation things were different, and how important, you know, like the past is and compared to the present and things like that. So different places that are local like that are all volunteer run are so cool to stop at, because they're just running off of like pure passion for sharing the story, for not allowing history to be forgotten, you know, remembering key people. It was really enlightening to stop there. There are a lot of different like local coffee shops and cute little boutiques that we saw, different small Dorchester County things, like different local mom and pop restaurants and visiting centers, and just everything. It was a cute, quaint little town that had a ton of history packed into it. So it's definitely a stop that you should make. Dorchester County, Maryland. Do the Harriet Tubman Loop. It's called the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway Self-Guided Tour. Okay, so if you just Google the Tubman Byway, it'll pull it up that way. And then when you download the app, let me see, it's 125 miles of byway, right? But you don't have to travel the whole way. When you pull it up on the internet, you'll see where the main spots are, being able to travel and things like that. But you can trace your journey, and that's really cool, because as you go along the way, there are different questions. So like on that app, it would say, okay, well, hey, you're at the Brodus plant, you know, you're on the ground of the where the Brodus plantation stood. It gives you a little breakdown as to what that is, how it was important in Harriet's life, to like, did you know that this is where, you know, Harriet lived, or questions for your kids. There was a lot of interaction. So if you do have to stay in your car, or if you don't feel comfortable getting out of your car because there are other people there or whatever, just because of like COVID, you can stay in your car and you can get such a great experience out of just taking photos, answering the questions, reading along, listening to the content. There are all different types of information that you can just get from your device on each stop on the route. So that's pretty cool. Let me see. I just don't want to forget anything. But like I said, the Harriet Tubman Museum on that loop is an absolute must stop. It is called the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Visitor Center. And that is the biggest Harriet Tubman National Park site that you will find. The Auburn location of her home is listed in the National Park Association, but it's not a historical site in the sense that the Dorchester County Visitor Center is. So that would be like the tier above. Now, her home is part of the national park too, but her home at the end of her life in Auburn, or like her, like the Fort Hill Cemetery, those are not national park related areas. So those are just like, they're kind of separate. So if you're thinking you're going to one big park, it's not. There are different locations. So when you're looking at it on a map, you might be a little confused just because there's so much area that it covers, that there are just different locations that are like sanctioned areas that are national park preserved. So yeah, the house in Auburn is, so if you guys do invest and take that time over, you know, a few years like we did where we traveled around, Auburn was the last Harriet Tubman portion of that journey that we went, and we went to that a few years ago. So it's definitely worth going into Dorchester County, seeing the byways, checking out the visitor center. I know when we went into Auburn after seeing all of that, it meant so much more because we had been there. You know, you can touch the ground, you can touch the signs, there's a lot of things. You can go up to the store, you can, you know, hang on to the pillars on the porch of the store, you can touch the door, you can touch the door handle. So if you are really into history and you like putting your hands on things that you know it's okay and it's safe to, because it doesn't take away or damage in any way, you can do all that there, which is really, really cool, because that's something that I like doing. It's just like a way of connecting, that I like to be able to do. It's kind of like hugging, you know. But yeah, it's definitely worth the investment to go, or if you're traveling through, making it a stop. Like I said, with a self-guided tour, you can, if you know you find yourself like, you know, 45 minutes outside of Dorchester County, just go and stop at the visitor center. If you can't make anything else, stop at the visitor center. If you can stop at only 2 places, go to the visitor center and go to the Brodus, the location of the Brodus plantation. And those 2 spots alone will really, I think, make you happy and feel fulfilled about seeing something that was Tubman related, that was a very pivotal point in time in her life. But yeah, my top 3 would be the visitor center, the plantation property, and then the store. Seeing the byway and the waterways as you travel from location to location is really neat, and it really puts into perspective, you know, you don't know how deep the water is in different locations. So leading people in the dark, you know, in the moonlight, how many people almost drowned, you know, cutting through those byways. It is not smooth, easy, clean water at all. And I guess growing up, I always had this idea in my mind as to what the waterways look like, you know, how they'd be swampy on the edges and like clean in the center, and they just basically like hustled, you know, like going up these waterways. It's not like that. There's so much vegetation. There's a lot of mud. There's, you know, there are cleaner stretches, and then there are thick sections where there's mud and cattails growing, and, you know, the swampy like razor grass. And so it really put into perspective a lot of things for me. I always thought, like, if they just made it to water, it would be so much easier, because you could kind of walk, you could kind of run through it, you could kind of swim upstream, you know, anything to like keep moving. But it was basically like running through sand the entire time. So I know that put that in a, physically seeing things like that put everything that I had read and researched and known for so many years into real perspective. So it just gave me like a different perspective on the whole thing, and a new point of view, after physically being there. So I definitely think going there and seeing things and getting to touch history. You get to touch history there, guys. I collected a little jar of dirt from along our travels. So I have a jar of Harriet Tubman dirt. I call it my jar of Harriet Tubman dirt. And then I have some stuff from Auburn. So I have Harriet Tubman dirt from, you know, Dorchester County, and then I have some stuff from Auburn. So I have my Harriet Tubman little jar full of my Harriet Tubman dirt and my other stuff from Auburn. So, so yeah, that's the fun thing. Like whatever it is that you collect, like if you collect souvenirs, if you collect the stamps in here, if you collect jars of dirt or rocks like some people, you can do that. And it's really cool because, you know, it doesn't damage anything, and it doesn't, like, you're not taking away from something valuable. You're just taking something along the side of the road, which is fine. But yeah, or you know, get a passport book and get stamped. But I will show this. Let me find it really quick. Ooh, is that one of them? Oh, nope, that was Ohio. I never know if I'm going forward or backwards, because some regions that you would think would be first are not first. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we were in the Mid-Atlantic region. So these passport books are available on Amazon. They'll also be linked in the description. So every state is color coordinated. So you can figure out which state you're traveling to. Hawaii and Alaska obviously are included. And then each state has specific like numbers linked to it, and then you can correlate that over here. So this is a Mid-Atlantic Park hollowed ground area. So it goes from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, West Virginia, Maryland. So one of the things that we also saw in this, I won't say in this area, but in this region, the Mid-Atlantic region, prior to that was the Flight 93 Memorial, and that's in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. So that's just a little side note. It was the same trip. It's on the same page because it was like literally the same trip. So I try to, when I do my cancellations, I try to keep them vertical in alignment. And obviously on different times, the stamps are different colors. So like this trip, they were all blue because it was all 1 month, right? If you go in a different month or whatever, they could be all red or whatever. So they kind of go back and forth, and it helps you in your cancellation book too to keep that organized, because you can overlap some of them just a little bit, you know. But anyways, down here it says the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad National Park and Freedom Network. This is the Byway right here. So all of your detail, it's almost like when you go into different museums and you put like 75 cents into one of those old machines with a penny, and it presses the penny and it turns it, like at the zoo they have those, at like the Air and Space Museums they have that, where it can, you know, like stamp out a spaceship or a giraffe or a lion or whatever. When it runs through the machine, that's basically like what this is, except on paper. And then you have just the other part of that. So one is from the visitor center, and then the other one is from the other location for like her home. So it's just really neat to be able to have those. I think those were the only two. Yep. So I actually posted pictures from the visitor center in Auburn and the visitor center in Dorchester County of me at both stamp stations. So these stamp stations for these passports, if it is a national historical park with the National Park Services, up by the register, they're only ever up by the register. I have searched and searched all over, and after having this for quite some time, they're only ever by the register. So go straight up to the register if you have one of these books and look off to the side. If there's a little counter or a gift wrapping station off to the side, it will be there. Or you can just ask them, say, hey, do you have the stamps? Where can I get the stamps for the cancellation books? These are called cancellation books. So as you stamp it, you like cancel it out. Like you're like, yep, I've been there, check. These books I think are like $13 to $14 on Amazon. So think, if you make a $15 investment and you are traveling all these places, you don't even have to get souvenirs. You just literally go over and you get a stamp. It's a free stamp every single, so you'll only find these in the visiting centers though. So when we went to DC, and we hit all of these, I believe, on the same day. The 3rd and the 4th. Okay, so Ford's Theater was first and then all of them. So, yeah, most of these, except this one, were all on the same day. You will only find these in the visiting center. So, like, if you go to DC and you go to the Lincoln Memorial and you're looking around, you know, by the Lincoln Memorial and you're like, okay, I don't see a stamp anywhere. You have to go into the visiting center for that specific thing. So, if you are in DC and you go to the Martin Luther King, Hope Stone, what is it? Out of a mountain of despair comes a stone of hope. So I believe it's the Hope Stone. So you have to go there to that location, but you go to that visitor center. Just like with the Lincoln Memorial, there's a visitor center right there. The Vietnam War, their like remembrance area, there is a visitor center for that. So each thing has a teeny tiny to a large gift shop building. So these ones will be found for the Dorchester County at the visiting, I know I'm going to call it by the wrong name if I don't look at it. There we go. There we go. The Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Visiting Center. It's just the visiting center there. But you have to go there if you want your stamps, because the stamps, you get 3 different stamp options that are there. One is a Junior Ranger. Those are for your kids. And then there are 2 adult ones. So, you know, you can get these, the kids version. This is the adult version. This is the historical landmarks, like park landmarks. And then there are ones where you can go and do like Mount Rushmore and the Grand Canyon and things like that. But honest to goodness, in the back of this book, there are blank pages where you can add more cancellations. So I would just probably go with this version of the book. And if you happen to swing by the Grand Canyon or Mount Rushmore or wherever, just flip open to the back of your book and then you can, you know, stamp it. In the back of your book, mine's all beat up, but it talks about the different park abbreviations. So as you're traveling around, you'll see all different types of things. So it will say like IHS, which is International Historical Site, or NB, which if you go to Gettysburg, you'll see a lot of NBs, and that's a national battlefield or a national battlefield park. So the NBs, let's stop there for a sec, because the NB initials are the best example of this that you'll see. So the initials, there are 3 different sets: NB, NBP, and then NBS. So you have National Battlefield, National Battlefield Park, and then National Battlefield Site. When you get to each location, some of the rules are a little different depending on which category they fall under. So like Gettysburg is a site, it's a park in some locations, and then it's a site on the battlefields. Because, so when the battle was fought in Gettysburg, it was fought in farmer fields, basically. Well, after the war and everything kind of settled, the farmers retilled the fields. So there were, you know, soldier uniforms, both Union and Confederate, and they just got tilled in. Bones got tilled in. So even to this day, as the earth, you know, breathes, basically, certain things start to surface. So you'll find things on the battlefield like the bullets or clothing. You can even still find remains from time to time in the battlefield. So it's a site, meaning you are not allowed to take anything from it. So you are not allowed to go out onto the field, the battlefields or anything, and be like, hey, I just found a cannonball and it's half exposed. I'm just going to dig at it with a stick, pull it out, take this cannonball home. You're not allowed to do that. So when you're going through these books or like traveling to different places and you're like, oh, it says, you know, like this, but it's an NB or an NBP or NBS. What does that mean? It's all in the back here in your little abbreviations. But yeah, there's a lot to be seen. I mean, this covers the entire United States, and each region is highlighted and color-coded. You get a little summary breakdown as to like all the numbers in all the different areas as to what they are, and then something unique about that whole area, that whole region, whether it's, you know, the North Atlantic region, or let's see, what all do we have? So you have the North Atlantic, the Mid-Atlantic, the Capital Region, the Midwest, the South Midwest, the Rockies, the Pacific. So these books are great for just keeping track, and it's really cool to pull these out sometimes and just share with friends and be like, oh, look, I got this one here. You'd be shocked at how each stamp has a story. Even though if you're like, oh, whatever happened to, yeah, I got a t-shirt from this place once, but, you know, I had to throw it out or whatever. As long as you keep your book in good condition, then you have all of your cancellation stamps and you can just, you know, recall different stories, different trips, different adventures. So this will be linked in the description of the video. But yeah, make sure you guys check out our trip to Auburn. We give kind of like the overview of the whole trip. Must stop places just like this one. But yeah, so happy traveling, and we'll see you guys later.